Bills Postgame Live. We are presented by the divorce and estate planning law firm of Clark Peshkin, Maddy Glab alongside of Steve Tasker. And the Bills dropped this one to the Broncos. 24-22 is your final score. The Bills are now 5-5 on the season. The Broncos 4-5 as they have won the last 3 games in a row. The Bills have lost the last 2 games in a row. They are no longer undefeated at Highmark Stadium either. Unfortunately, they had that win streak going, at least in this season, dating back to last season. Had won 8 straight, or could have won 8 straight at Highmark Stadium. That streak is no longer. A tough game for the Bills. They had got the lead, the 1-point lead. 22-21 was the score with less than 2 minutes to go. The Broncos have the ball. They start to move the ball down the field, are able to get it within field goal range. 41-yard field goal attempt by Will Lutz is no good, but the Bills get called for too many men on the field. They had 12 men on the field, so it would be a shorter field goal. Field goal is good as time expires, and the Broncos are able to win this one. Steve, how wild was this one, especially at the end of the game, going back and forth when the Bills started to get some things going on offense? Right. It took them 5 drives to score in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, the Bills completely gift-wrapped this win for the Broncos. They turned it over on their first 2 possessions to give the Broncos the lead. The Broncos couldn't capitalize on the second turnover. The Bills, just couldn't do anything offensively, fumbled the ball away, gave it away 4 times in total, got 1 fumble back. And at the end of the game, totally gift-wrapped an extra point, an extra attempt after the Broncos had missed it to lose the game. An incredibly well gift-wrapped win for the Broncos, care of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they did it to themselves tonight. There's no question about it.
It's tough to win games when you lose the turnover.
Well, -3 on the turnovers is huge. Yeah, -3. Yeah, that's a crusher. The Bills' defense showed up big tonight, and at the end, got a Russell Wilson answered prayer on he threw the ball straight up in the air. Taron Johnson, had his head around, but still made contact with the receiver. 28-yard field goal, or 28-yard penalty to put him into field goal range. And then the Broncos it was all clock manipulation, timeouts this, timeouts that. How much time was going to have? If the Bills would have the chance to get the ball back, if they kicked it on 3rd down or 4th down, took it to the final play, and 12 men on the field gave him a chance to kick the extra point, or kick the extra opportunity to kick the field goal. So, excruciating loss for the Bills.
We're going to break it all down here, but first, to help us explain what happened in this one and break the game down a little bit more, let's go over to Josh Allen and Mitch Morse, who are on the podium taking questions right now.
Josh, what are the emotions right now after taking the lead in that?
Sucks. Shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. It's a lot of bad football.
Josh, it looks like a couple times there were trouble with the exchanges with James Cook. Obviously the one was a fumble, but it looked like there were a few times there were some issues. What goes into that right there?
Just getting more reps at practice. That's just something we can't have.
Josh, throughout this rough patch for the offense, you've maintained your confidence that you guys will be able to turn it around at some point. After this performance, do you remain confident after all the, quote, and to use your words, bad football that was put on display tonight?
Yeah, I'm still confident, but it's no secret the clock's ticking, Got to have some urgency now.
What leaves you still confident in the offense after it's been so many weeks of kind of the same story here?
Because we've done it before.
Hey, Mitch, 5-5. How deep of a hole have you guys dug?
Well, it's not ideal. I think now it's going to be the real test for this team. Not so much on Sundays, but how we stick together through this on the week. Look at it objectively. And then I think the best teams when the pressure's at its highest and when everything seems to be crumbling is when it's not, and you come together closer. it's like breaking a bone, right? Like when you heal it, it becomes stronger. So for us, it's what we got to do, and very confident in this team to do that. It's not going to be easy, but like Josh said, the clock is ticking, and we just have to take this right now one day at a time, but at the same time look at everything objectively.
Josh, what happened on the interception right before halftime?
Just left it inside.
What can be done from a messaging standpoint inside that hasn't been tried already? I'm sure you guys have tried things. This isn't tonight. It's not like this came out of nowhere. A total team lost tonight. I mean, what can you do in terms of trying something different?
I once was a part of a team that won our first one, lost 5 straight after that. And we came together and we said, we know what works. Now, granted, we have to make a few adjustments, but we know it works. So we got to double down on what we know works and take onus of it. And things turned around. So for us, it's for us, it's going to be insulating the outside noise, and then just taking it one day at a time, having each other's backs no matter what. I think this team does that on a regular basis, but now we got to double down on it. So we'll take it one day at a time.
Josh, how have you, looking back, gotten through something like this before, and how can you apply that to what's been happening with this?
I mean, every situation is different, but to have knowledge, to have reps when things aren't going great, and they're not going great, you gotta rely on the men in this locker room and the leaders in this locker room, and we gotta play better football.
Josh, the offense looked a little bit more concept-based rather than scheme. How does that vary during the course of a ball game?
Just trying to figure out what works against the team and what we expect them to do, and just having to plan against that. And they, coming off a bye week, had 2 weeks to prepare, and they had a good game plan.
Whatever adjustments you do need to make, how drastic do they need to be?
I mean, it's a tough question. Drastic. We just have to execute when our number's called. And I know that might seem like a mundane weekly thing, but it hasn't changed. That's the key to success. And then I think just doing our jobs, looking at it objectively, like I said. Now I'm sounding like a broken record, and make adjustments where they need to be, and look ourselves in the mirror, each person, each individual, and then having each other's backs.
You mentioned outside noise. What about inside? Doubts or confidence getting shook. How do you protect against that? You're a professional athlete. You've been through these, but you're also human beings. What do you need to do to keep that in check?
Well, I think that's when this team's going to be put to the ultimate test, right? How do we respond to these moments? The lows are so devastatingly low in this league. It's not safe to say that this is a pretty devastating low right now. But I do think that this is when the good teams come together. Have each other's back, man. I mean, listen, this is not what we're looking for by any means, but we have to have each other's back. And it's put to the test right now, and we'll go from there.
Josh, your first 2 years, still learning the league, the team wasn't quite formed. So with that in mind, and those years behind you, might this be the toughest stretch you've gone through in your career in the NFL, at least these last 6 games where you've thrown a pick in each game?
I don't know.
What's your confidence level, Josh, right now? Personal and for the team, where's your confidence level like?
Still high.
What makes it high?
Again, we've done it before. I know we can do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, fellas.
right, this game against the Broncos is presented by Independent Health. Independent Health, you deserve the red shirt treatment. Now it's time for this week's Player Spotlight. It's presented by Microsoft Surface. Microsoft Surface is the official tablet and sideline technology of the Buffalo Bills, and we're giving it to linebacker Terrell Bernard. He led the way with 13 total tackles, had a sack. He was in concussion protocol pretty much all week, was limited in practices, and they needed him big time in this one. He was effective with what he was able to do. For somebody who's a first-year starter and is in concussion protocol all week and then can come in and play a game like he did, unfortunately a loss for the Bills, but he was an impactful player, Steve.
Yeah, he really was. And his speed and coverage ability were really on display tonight, as well as his ability to just step in and make open field tackles, go into coverage, all of that stuff. He has been a real athlete inside, and his instincts have really been the difference between him being just a guy on the field and then a guy who can really make plays. His instincts have been outstanding. And in a spot where the defense, outside of that final drive, played extremely well tonight, I think Terrell Bernard stood out.
Yeah, you talk about instincts. Anytime I saw him on the field, he was swarming to the football and then trying to punch the football out, too, anytime he had an opportunity to do that. I want to go back to Mitch Morse and Josh Allen's press conference there. Mitch Morse explaining, hey, when the pressure is at its highest, that's when we can come together at a team. That's exactly what this group needs to do right now. They have a tough stretch of games ahead of them, facing teams like the Eagles and Chiefs in division game here next week against the Jets. When you look ahead to the next 3 games, they're going to get a bye week here soon enough, which will be great for this team with the amount of injuries that have added up on this roster. But you talk about how the locker room needs to come together right now. You've played in the NFL. You know what it's like when the moments are feel like the world is on top of you, feels like everybody is against you, but you have to be able to look within each other and really be able to put I don't know what to call it, but to put a force field over the locker room to where the outside noise doesn't get you at this point.
Yeah, the first rule is when you find yourself in a hole like the Bills have now. They were at the top of a couple of weeks ago. They're at the top of the division. Things are going well. They're playing well. Things are humming along. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And that's what the Bills have done. They've put themselves in this hole. This game tonight was an absolute self-inflicted loss. No question about it. You can make the same argument over the other losses they've had. The Cincinnati loss, Cincinnati was a really good team, but you got beat by 6 points on the road in their building. And you felt like that was self-inflicted with some turnovers and some calls like that. The Bills, when they look, the enemy is themselves right now. They, fumbled away and they intercepted and had the football fumbled away in their first 2 series of the night. You can't do that against a team like Denver who's struggling to move the football and score points, and they're trying to run the ball in a league where you throw it just to get their feet underneath them. And you gave them the ability to go out on a lead and then play that game as long as they wanted to. I think that's the story with the Bills right now. They're their own worst enemy. They have been for most of this year, and they can't figure out how to get out of their own way. Until that happens, you're going to keep seeing games like the one we saw tonight. Sometimes they're going to win these games, sometimes they're going to lose them, but this is a team that should be winning a ton of games, and they're not right now.
And they weren't really able to get anything going consistently on offense in terms of getting into the end zone or scoring points via field goal. You go touchdown, interception, turnover on downs, touchdown, fumble, punt, touchdown. So you weren't able to stack those drives on top of drives where you can start scoring the football. It took them 5 drives to get on the scoreboard. They started the game fumble, interception, punt, and then were able to finally score a touchdown. But the inconsistency here on offense, the other thing with how they were struggling to move the football tonight is I felt like they would get into third down so quickly. First down, second down would go by, and you wouldn't gain the 10 yards, or it would be an incompletion or a short yardage play, and then it would be 3rd and 10. 3rd and long. You get yourself into down and distances like that, it's hard to continue to keep drives alive.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. I mean, the consistency's not there. You see, the players. There's some superlative plays out there, particularly on the defensive side tonight. They really did well. James Cook, and a lot was made, particularly on social media, and while the game was going on, he fumbled the first play from scrimmage and lost the ball for the Bills, and was out of the game for 3 series. When he came back in, he played with a vengeance. He got over 100 yards rushing tonight, had almost 9 yards per carry. I mean, the guy was dynamite tonight. And that was after being benched for coughing it up. Somebody learned their lesson. It's got to be really frustrating for these guys to go through a game like this, just like it is for the fans. But when you come down to it, the Bills were 3 of 8 on third down, 369 total net yards. They outgained the Broncos on 20 fewer plays, or 19 fewer yards. Plays. They rushed the ball almost for 200 yards. The Broncos were 120. It was, the Bills were the better team, but they just could not keep themselves from making it easier on the Broncos than it needed to be.
And I think another frustrating thing about this and about watching this game and the offensive struggles is it would be one thing if we haven't seen it from the offense. But we have seen it time and time again from this offense. We've seen them get into rhythms this season. We saw the 3 straight games where they were averaging 41 points per game, scoring well over 30. It's happened before. We just haven't seen it since weeks 2 through 4, and that's what's the toughest thing to not even accept. We don't want to accept it. We're not ready to accept it because we know this team is capable of being so much better.
Yeah, and that's really where they're at. Until they can figure out how to start getting out of their own way, they're not going to progress.
Yeah. Well, head coach Sean McDermott is on the podium right now, so let's get over to him.
Okay, time's yours.
John, that's got to be one of the more inexplicable losses this year. So, given the way that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We practiced 2 or 3 times that this week, the substitution from dime to field goal block. And at the end of the day, we didn't execute it. So it's inexcusable.
The issue with the turnovers. I know you're going to say you can't win playing like that, but what is going on? What can you figure out is going on?
No, it wasn't good enough. You can't turn the ball over, period, let alone 4 times, and field position can't start at the minus 40 or whatever it was, minus 41. It's not good enough.
Is that a situation, Sean, that kind of seems to be from where we sit anyway, or I sit? It can compound itself when guys know it's a problem, and does that play into it at all? Guys get uptight or whatever. Do you have a sense of that? I don't sense that. If that's the case, if you think that's the case, I don't believe that's accurate. You throw and catch the ball, you run with the football, and your job description is to execute and maintain possession of the ball. It's not good enough.
Outside of the turnovers, what were your overall feelings of the offense and their ability to move the ball today?
I thought at times we moved the ball. Not enough, though. I think it can be better. I really do.
Can you ask much more of your defense? The only reason you were in that game until the very end was your defense. Did you say that or no? I would, yeah. You talk about 4 turnovers, and the ball at the minus 40 is a starting spot. 5 defensive starters out. Those guys played their ass off. They really did. So I applaud them for it. Certainly work to do there as well. But they played hard, and I appreciate that.
To that point, what is your message to the defense after a game like this, where the team's now 5-5, if they were keeping you guys in?
Yeah, they played hard. There's certainly things we can work on defensively. They gave us a chance, and hit the check down, which that should have been taken away on the 2-minute drive. So that's one we could have executed better. But other than that, I thought we battled and gave us a chance to win and got a takeaway. And that's a good offense, a talented offense. And you're going out there with 5 defensive starters out to begin with, and I thought those guys played their asses off.
Sean, on the pass interference to Terry, you called blitz again. You'd gotten the play before. Yeah. Is that why you went back to it? Because you'd gotten there before?
Yeah, two things. In the line, the field goal line, we felt like was the 40-yard line. So you're not working with 35 yards of real estate. You're working with a set window of real estate. So Russell had done a good job against a 4-man rush, scrambling and making plays with his feet. And so it just was, hey, if we're going to go down, we're going down being aggressive.
Sean, with James fumble on the first play, 16 plays until he re-entered the game. What went into the decision to kind of keep him out for a while? Did he receive a message if a message was sent?
Well, I told him I believe in him. I can tell you that. Whether that was, at play 15 or whenever, but I told him I believe in him, and I thought he came out and ran the ball better. Still, the ball came out. I think on the one in particular where it bounced back up to him, it can't happen. So, like I said earlier, it's that's part of the job description.
Sean, everybody has their ideas on what they see in Josh and maybe his struggles. What are you seeing right now in his confidence level, the way he's playing? What do you see as the head coach?
Well, I think he's had, I think he's played well at times, and then at times he hasn't, and you can't turn the ball over. So we've got to figure that out.
Sean, how close do you feel to getting things where you need them to be? I know that's something that's been said for players. Hey, we're close. But now with 7 games left, or however many it is,
Yeah, I don't think everything we're doing is wrong. There's some good football being played and some good football being coached. That said, it needs to be better, and you can't turn the ball over, and you can't start by giving the team their starting field position at the minus 40-yard line. That's not how you win in this league. So we've got to play better and move the football, score points on a more consistent basis, and then the special teams piece has to factor in as far as field position and covering kicks, covering punts. And certainly I'm not turning a blind eye to the defense. There's things we can do better there as well. But I was proud of the way the defense and how hard they played. We'll address what we need to address going forward here.
Sean, what's the difficulty level in having those hard conversations specifically on a short week here?
I would say time, more than anything, Joe. But the tough conversations are going to be had because we're not taking the field next Sunday here at 4 o'clock or 4:15, whenever it starts, without those tough conversations. That's just not how I do things.
Do you think, Sean, that something, in other words, maybe drastically needs to be done? I'm not sure what that is, but in your mind, do you have to hit a hard reset based on this game and maybe this whole 6-game stretch?
I think, I need a little bit of time here just after the game to assess that. Obviously, I'm not real happy right now, so I'll evaluate that and over the next 24 hours here and see where it takes us.
What's your overall confidence level in Dorsey?
I'm confident, but I believe we can be better at the same time.
Coach, you mentioned the field position. Was it the plan for the whole game to kick to Mims, or were you at any point considering avoiding kicking to him?
Yeah, we discussed that, and he's obviously a talented young player with speed. I just didn't feel like we had enough population down there. I don't think he was making a ton of people miss as much as it was population around. And then we've got to punt the ball better too. I think we had one ball that went right down the middle that was low. Sam's a better punter than that.
John, just to follow on Joe's question, if I could, just for a second. Josh was pretty emphatic earlier this week that he felt it was an execution issue, that whatever's called, that the guys on the field should be able to execute that play to the best of their ability. From where you sit right now, and I know you have to look at this film, is it a scheme or an execution issue as far as the offense?
Just starting off, Adam, I would say there were times early in the game where we dropped the football. The football was there and we dropped it. I think there was multiple players that had opportunities to make catches and they didn't make the catch. That's part of the evaluation is, okay, is it scheme? Well, guys are open, catch the football. So, but you evaluate the whole thing, right?
You've been here for a number of years. You set a culture, we've talked about it over the years. Do you feel a sense of things unraveling a little bit? Like, what was your sense in that locker room? with this group?
Yeah, well, guys are upset. They're frustrated. And when you don't get the results you're looking for, you don't have maybe the production you're looking for. They get frustrated, and so I can promise it's not from a lack of effort. This is, we got to continue to reset, continue to make adjustments that we need to make. And again, like I said, I know the result wasn't what we wanted it to be, but I do think there's some good football times being played, but not good enough. And so, obviously we have things to work on.
How much can you rely on having that offensive success in previous years to where you are right now?
I don't follow. Give me.
There's been some talk that you guys can get back on track because you have done it before. So I'm just wondering how much can you rely on that? Because
it's been the better part of through 10 games now. It's through 10 games. So I've seen the inconsistencies through 10 games, and so that's really where, to me, the honest evaluation right now is.
How would you describe your team's focus on whether it be a day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
Focus is fine, Tim. Focus is fine. I mean, these guys work at it. They're intentional when they're around the building. You guys see them around the building. They're hard workers. They practice hard. I thought this week was a good practice. The practices that we had there were good practices. But you come out here and you got to put it together, right? And so, the field is slanted against you when you're turning the ball over and they're starting at the minus 40-yard line, and it's like trying to walk uphill. I mean, it's not easy. So I thought the defense did a good job keeping us in the game for as long as they did, and it's unfortunate that they went down the end like they did.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Ticketmaster is the presenting sponsor of the Buffalo Bills 2023 season. Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the NFL. And I want to end on a high note here. And the job that the defense did, and Sean McDermott alluded to and talked about it in that press conference there, just the job that they did, being able to keep this offense in the game, keep the team in the game as a whole. I mean, they hold the Broncos to 24 points when there were a lot of possessions that they could have scored on, but the Bills defense, they were able to come up with some big play ending big play enders to drives, and whether it was the forced fumble that they had or whether it was the pressure that they put on Russell Wilson toward the end of the game. They picked up 8 quarterback hits, 4 sacks. The defensive line really started to get to Wilson toward the end of the game. And they're doing it with so many starters out, and they have done it consistently with so many starters out. So what impressed you most about the job that the defense was able to do tonight to just give the ball back to the offense time and time again? Well,
the best thing they did was, they held them to a field goal when they were out on the field in their own 26-yard line to start the game. I mean, they stopped them there right out of the gate, and then did it again after the next turnover. So getting out of the first half, allowing 15 points was big. Mm-hmm. They were -3 on the turnover ratio at halftime, and they were down 15-6, I think, or
15-8.
15-8. Mm-hmm. So they were only down a touchdown after a -3 turnover ratio and a half of football. That's big. And then they gave up 2 more field goals is all they gave up. Mm-hmm. So, 3 more field goals is all they gave up. So. No, 2, because they had a touchdown. I can't remember how they scored it, but they had a touchdown, missed 2 extra points. So, the defense played extremely well. And despite, you can criticize, they came up short at the end in that final drive, no question, but they were aggressive, something that they had not been in the end of games like this before in previous losses or in previous wins, where they managed to hang on. They had been in years past very soft and keep everything in front of them. And this time they were very ultra aggressive, and it without a 28-yard pass interference call, it would have worked. So, and not that goes unnoticed, but this defense really showed up, I thought, and played extremely well tonight. And on the offensive side, particularly in the first half, I don't know how you can. I mean, Ken Dorsey gets a lot of criticism because this is an offense with Josh Allen. They should be scoring points. Man, oh man, you got guys dropping the football all over the place. You got the drop passes. You got the guys getting ripped out. I don't know how. I don't think we know how good or bad Ken Dorsey can be because they're struggling to get a handoff in the backfield without coughing it up. So I put this on the players tonight rather than the coaches. 4 turnovers off getting the ball ripped out. I think that's where it really boils down to. I think this is a loss where the players can sit in the locker room, look in the mirror, and say, "Man, it's us." Sean McDermott gave them everything they needed to win. Ken Dorsey, that first half of football, they could not have betrayed him more if they tried. And I think that's got to be really disappointing.
Yeah.
Really disappointing for them.
Yeah, Coach McDermott talked about some of those dropped passes, dropped balls during the game when he was talking about that during the press conference just a few minutes ago. We'll see how this team can put it together, if they can go into a short week and come out with a newfound energy, a newfound purpose, identity, whatever you want to call it. They'll have a short week here because they've got another home game against the Jets. 4:25 is the kick for Week 11. It's the only time this season this team will be back-to-back at Highmark Stadium.
Right.
So maybe being at home 2 straight weeks is just what the doctor ordered for this team.
Yeah, well, it certainly is. They do need some sort of elixir to get them out of the funk they're in. And because we've seen the enemy, and it is us. So we'll see if they can get out of their own way.
There's a whole lot of veterans in this locker room that have played a lot of NFL in their entire life. They've played several seasons, double-digit seasons, so we'll see what happens this week in the lead-up to Week 11. A big game against the New York Jets is ahead of this team. We're going to wrap it up here tonight for Steve Tasker. I'm Maddy Glab. We will see you guys next week after the Jets game.